Hey, I'm right back with another video. It's almost lunchtime in about an hour, so I decided to make another quick video. And I wanted to talk about, why I feel a lot of resentment towards the employment sector when they deviate from these guidelines, these employment guidelines. I think a lot of people put a pressure on women to get married and or stay married. My ex relationship is not a relationship that I would want to devote my time to for obvious reasons. Obviously, that's a very strange relationship that I didn't know about until years later. So that would not be possible. So some people would think, well, go out and get someone else. I mentioned that when you have been gang stalked, you have to be very careful about who you come in contact with. But aside from that, really, during the times where I was married, although I had good times with Joel, in the back of my mind, I always thought, I really am not comfortable with other people, like living in an arrangement with another person. And I think if people have it in their heart to be married, then they should be married. But if it's not in you to be married, then you shouldn't be married. There's a Bible scripture where the Apostle Paul talks about this issue. Let me see if I can find it. It says, it is 1 Corinthians 7:8, and it says, now to the married. Now he was saying this not as a command, but more of I'm sitting in my bedroom, and it's kind of dark in here, so you can see my glasses, but he what, not as a commandment, but more as a recommendation or an advice to people. And it's basically saying, now to the unmarried and to the widows, I say it is good for them to stay unmarried as I do, unless, of course, you are inflamed with passion. And I think I mentioned the scripture before. Some people want to have intimate relationships. So instead of being somebody who's promiscuous, it's better to settle down with one person and be married. I'm not promiscuous. I don't have like this strong desire to go out and have intimacy with intimacy. But if somebody is, then the best option for them would be to be married. I have no desire to be married. I don't, not just because of that. It's just like I said, I've been alone pretty much all my life, and I've become accustomed to being alone. I think maybe my family wanted me to stay in the relationship with Joel's family because maybe they had some sort of advantage. Maybe they felt a sense of closeness with them, or maybe they didn't fully understand what kind of relationship that was, because to me it's improper. It's an improper relationship, especially if he's in a relationship with his mom or anyone for that matter. So I choose to stay single. I'm comfortable single. I don't believe that I really would. I have no desire to be a part of any sort of family unit. I really don't. Like I have a child on my own, but I don't have this whole desire to work towards a family goal, to be a part of a family. I don't. You know what I mean? I have more of a singular existence, and that's the way I choose it to be. It's comfortable for me. I don't want to be married. I just don't. It's not for everybody. And I think when people I have a different view of marriage than a lot of people do. I think a lot of women get swept up with the romantic idea of it. And I think when I was younger, that really appealed to me. It was like, the romance, the falling in love and everything. And those are the emotions that you go through in the initial stage of your relationships. That's normal to feel that way. But you don't always feel that way. And once that infatuation wears off, you're dealing with another person. And if you are somebody who is able to put up with that, then I say by all means. Like, what I mean by that is sometimes when you're in the relationship, there's a lot of people accommodate you. They bend over backwards to do things for you. They are kind and sweet. But as time goes on, you become kind of a piece of the furniture. Like, they sometimes might ignore your needs. You might ignore their needs. that sort of thing, because you're getting back onto this whole everyday life cycle, and sometimes you don't have time to give them special attention, and vice versa. And I don't have it in me to want to be in a relationship. Okay, so marriage is good for some people. I personally choose not to be married. It's just not something I want to do. And it's not, I don't have a desire to go out and like be promiscuous and date a bunch of men or anything like that. I just want to be somewhat stable, have a job, and finish up the rest of my life. Like I'm getting close to 50 years old, okay? And I consider myself to be somebody who's close to the end of their life. Meaning once you get 50, then you hit 60, then 70, and then after that point, you're getting way too old, okay? So, I don't want to have any more children. I don't want to be in a family. I don't want anyone's children. I don't have it in me to be motherly to anyone else's children. I don't. I'm being realistic. Instead of being put in a situation where I'm in a relationship where, like, for example, I married a guy who had children, and then I don't have it in me to want to give any of my maternal feelings towards somebody else. And it's better to know that than put yourself in a situation where you're expected to do something that is going to go against your nature. What ends up happening when you do that is you can end up abusing a kid. Now, I would never abuse a kid on purpose, but I'm sure a lot of people who ended up abusing their children didn't do this on purpose. It's just something that, they probably knew deep down inside that it wasn't for them to be in that situation. But a lot of times societal pressure puts this sort of, people put pressure on another person to get married, to have children, or whatever. And so they're stuck with kids, and then they end up abusing them, whether that be verbally or physically, which I would never do, or just downright ignoring that child. So it's, I think there's a lot of foolishness that gets that people bring up. They don't think about things thoroughly before they try to impose their ideas on other people. Also, I understand about the religious issue. Sometimes people want to put religion into the workplace. And like I said, because of this whole issue is very confusing and makes no sense, and the very fact that there are so many different denominations that got involved in my targeting, it doesn't make sense to bring up the religious issue. I think the religious issue is brought up to be kind of frivolous and just to try to win a point. But the point is that it doesn't make sense, because if you're dealing with different religious denominations, what religious church are you talking about? Now, my mom, when I was growing up, never claimed to be religious, ever, okay? Now all of a sudden she's acting like, oh yeah, going to church and whatever, although my mother doesn't step into church, okay? But she supposedly claims to be a believer, but she doesn't go to church, okay? And so I'm a believer, I just don't go to church. And I don't really like people pressuring me to go to any particular denomination. Church is not for me. I don't enjoy church activities. I don't go to church, okay? That doesn't make me a bad person. Obviously, the people who got involved in my targeting claim to be very religious, right? They claim to be religious, but everything that they do kind of leads on this criminal type activity. So you can't judge people based on those things, okay? I've given organized religion a chance, and I don't feel it's for me. And I prefer people not bring it up to me, really, to be honest with you. Because especially after my targeting, it's like, if people look in the Bible, they will see that what there's the sort of stuff is wrong. It's like you don't impose religion on other people. You just don't. Okay? And I resent it when people kind of impose that on me. I understand people can invite you to their church and stuff like that. And I just usually just decline it. I've gone through the whole church thing. I've visited several different churches. I've visited some predominantly black churches. I've visited some churches where like it's a mixed bag of people. And I've given the whole thing enough of a chance. And I just choose not to do it. I don't want to be a part of a church. I don't want to. Okay, and my reasons are, I have very good reasons for not wanting to. It's just I personally feel more spiritually inspired by myself. Okay, so there's really no reason for me to do it in a group. And it shouldn't have anything to do with work. If you're following specific guidelines, it should not have anything to do with it. And it's unfortunate that, I've been put in a situation where this was an issue that got brought up, and they made it difficult for me in this town, but then they made it difficult for me everywhere. And you see, this is for me to join a church would just be to what? To please a particular person? Because it wouldn't be pleasing God, I'll tell you that right now. Because if you're doing it only for those reasons, to get a job or whatever, then, like I said, if you get hit by a bus one day, and if your heart really isn't in it, believe me, my spirituality, my relationship with God, I believe is a very sincere, wholesome, and full one. You know what I mean? And it's not something that I'm faking. I'm not doing it for other people. I don't do it for show. It's very serious, okay? And it's not something that I need to share with other people. It just isn't. I resent it when these issues get brought up. And I tend to shut down and shut people and just literally close myself off to people who try to push that issue. Because I see the flaws in that and the error in that reasoning. And I don't like to devote myself to things that I don't believe in. It's not that I don't believe in God. I do believe in God. I don't believe in this sort of dominion theology that people try to promote. I don't believe in that. Okay. And so I try to live my life very quietly. I don't try to disrupt people. I do believe that there are certain churches that have done good things for people, and I think that's wonderful. I really do. But as far as me, my existence is one of a singular one, meaning I prefer to be in touch with God on my own. I just do. Okay. I don't find fulfillment in organized religion. Some people do. I don't. And I would prefer the people not mention it to me, to be honest with you. I know that my mom mentioned it the last time I saw her. It's like, oh, things were going better for you when you were going to church. No, things got worse when I started going to church. It's when I started visiting churches is when I started dealing with all this. That was the beginning of all this. And so, I'm not going to ever have a relationship with my ex-family. Okay. They pretty much burned bridges with me because, especially since my ex-brother wrote that comment, my relationship with my family is over. It's over. Because it's just layers upon layers of abuse. And so why would I want to engage in a relationship with people who abuse me so much to the point where they don't even realize that they abuse you? It's wrong, okay? I think the religious issue was brought up as a way to gain popularity and then to create an argument. And I'm not going to argue religion. I'm not going to argue it. I'm fully supportive of people who choose to go to churches. I'm fully supportive if people want to get married, then that's what they want to do. Okay? My existence is basically about taking care of myself, so and earning my living, having a little living, and just taking care of myself so I don't have to be a burden on other people. That's what it is, okay? And and the people who got involved in this, to me, are not good examples of people who are walking in the footsteps of Jesus Christ. The people who have done this are doing everything that is not scriptural. It is not scriptural, meaning it is nowhere written in the Bible that this sort of behavior should ever go on, okay? I don't want to have any relationship with people who are ignorant. Like, I can't deal with that sort of ignorance. I can't deal with somebody who gets involved with group mentality or tries to put that sort of pressure on me. Okay, and by me, saying this, I'm not somebody who's sitting there trying to pull people out of churches. I'm not trying to destroy people and their marital relationships. I'm just saying is if you are from an abused, scapegoated family, you have to be careful about who you communicate with, who you come in contact with. And I would hate to, get married to somebody and find out they were secretly in relationship with my family so that he can try to sit here and abuse me. That's another good reason. You know what I mean? My family is extremely abusive. For my ex-brother to write that comment, knowing that they put me in this program, it's ridiculous. I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to be a part of any religion And that's not me being defiant by any means. You know, if it was an issue, then I should have been allowed to move somewhere else. But they didn't let me do that. You know what I mean? I have every right to reject their form of religion. That doesn't make any sense. Especially, like I said, you got Lutherans, Protestants, you got Presbyterians, Pentecostals, Baptists, all rolled up into one thing. That doesn't make sense, okay? No, and scripturally, that doesn't jive. It does not jive, okay? So it doesn't make sense. You know, and I live my life based on things that are based on fact. You know what I mean? And that's not based on fact. It's based on somebody's ego trip. And I don't want any part of that. You know, I didn't bring this on myself. I live a very good life. I live a very wholesome life. Yeah, I do. I live a very wholesome life. I consider myself, I live a good life. Meaning, I mean, sure, I'm not working right now, and I've been dealt with a major blow, you know, when it comes to work and stuff like that. But I live a good life. I like to consider myself to be a good person. Am well, I don't like to say good. No one's good but God. But I would say that I'm a decent person. Okay? I'm a very caring person. I'm a very loyal person. And I do have a very close relationship with God. I do. Okay? And it's not one that I believe should be brought out for showy display. There's a scripture in the Bible that talks about people who pray, like, for example, out loud because they want attention. I'm not somebody who wants to draw attention to my spirituality. And yeah, religion sometimes can lack spirituality, meaning sometimes it's devoid of anything relating to the true relationship that people should have with God. Sometimes it's just about a club membership so that you can get public approval, and that's dangerous, okay? Because the Bible talks about that. Same thing about people who pray out loud, trying to get attention. That's not what it's supposed to be about. It's about the sincerity that you have before God is what it's supposed to be about, and anything else is going to fall short. So come Judgment Day, if you're playing that game about, well, my glasses are really like reflecting. Anyway, it's funny. When you want to play those sort of games, that's going to become a problem. You know what I mean? And like I said, you know, some people are using religion to the point where it does resemble like the mark of the beast. Like, you're going to be able to decide what's a cult and what's not. Who's a true server? Who's a true devoted person to God, and who is just doing it for show. It's about separation. You know, finding out who has the true sincerity and who doesn't. And it really does make a difference. So anyway, almost lunchtime. I got half an hour to go. And then once I'm done with that, then I'm going to start looking for work, doing what I can do. But it's unfortunate for the immaturity of certain people to bring some sort of, you know, this bad thing onto a person, such as myself. You know what I mean? It is. I mean, it is a bad thing. So for people who want to invite me to your church and stuff like that, it's no offense. You know, I'm not trying to, and I really don't know if you're in communication with my family or not, and I'm going to assume that you are. But the answer is no. I'm not going to your church. I'm not going to. Okay? Don't bother asking me, because I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to wrap up this video, and I have my reasons, and I don't have to explain my reasons. It's because I legally have my reasons, and scripturally I have my reasons, and I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to wrap up this video, and I'll be back in the other video some other time later. Take care. Bye-bye.